All right, everybody. Hello. Welcome to episode 117 of Dissonant Waves. Ritz and Trix are here as always.
Yes, indeed.
Howdy.
My name is Domino, and we have several things to cover this week. We've been having a streak of a lot of things and doing a lot, double plussing these episodes. We got Frankie and the Witch Fingers' album Zam, a double album. We've got Sly Withers' Overgrown, of Montreal's Freewave Lucifer, Fuck Fuck Fuck, Trixie Mattel's The Blonde and Pink albums, and basically Raccoon Love's debut Trashy EP and everything else they've put out. Wrapping up Raccoon Love like we've wrapped up Petite League and all of that previously.
Indeed.
Now, if I can make an observation this week, it's like a chunky smoothie. A fair amount of blending has
you
happened.
need better. I was gonna say you need better milk there if your smoothies.
It's like the fruit has not been fully finished processing. You know, you kind of dumped it out a little too early.
I made a nice smoothie this afternoon actually, mango and banana. A little bit of psyllium husk to get some more fiber in my diet, but pretty good smoothie. I know it's nothing to do with this analogy. Just it was a good smoothie.
You got
a rum and coke. It is not a smoothie in any possible way, definition of the word, but it's delicious.
It is blended.
Yeah,
but you get a lot of you get a lot of things that are blended, and some things have risen to the top that have stood out as completed things, and everything else is kind of just different layers of. Yeah, right here too.
Yeah,
fair enough. So, which one do you want to start with then, Domino?
That's a really good question. We want to start out with the chunks, the good things, the things you want to eat.
I think if we're blending here, we should do it as the blender should be, and it should start off a bit more, I guess, in chunks, and then eventually become quite smooth. So if we do it in this analogy, and we need to make it sense, just go ahead and say what you think is the chunkiest.
Right, chunkiest in this case means to me that the thing that has stood out artistically the most and is like the most complete or dynamic. Well, that's the word here. Most dynamic. And so with that, let's start with the Montreal album.
Yes, I have no introduction for this because I kind of just picked this to make Dominic laugh.
Oh, and this is the band's, what's the number here? Their not their 25th album, not even King Gizzard's at 25 yet.
No, if I decide to do the CO on Spotify, we got 1, 2, 3, 4,
18th.
5, 6. There you go. You got
18th album. And 26 years of existence. And you know, we've covered a lot of Montreal, a little bit of the early stuff, a lot of their middle stuff. Kevin Barnes has gone and done a lot of stuff, and this is the first album we've really captured from them in the modern day. The first one we've done where Kevin's been out in the way that they currently are. You know, we didn't cover You Are Fun. We didn't cover I Feel Safe With You Trash. But instead,
did we even cover Riders Relic?
That was not. Is that 2019?
That was 2018. So
before us.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the most recent thing we've covered is still Lousy with Sylvie and Briar before this.
I thought so. I thought this is we've practically skipped a whole era of Montreal, and that's not to say that it's a bad era. It is kind of to say that it's not really too much of an interesting era for the sake of that. If you've heard a lot of the stuff that he's done earlier, you practically heard that era.
And those are things we probably might get to eventually. I do think Montreal is worth covering in full eventually. But that, you know, that could be us doing this for 10 years and finally being like, oh yeah, we never really did Aureate Gloom. Might as well just do that last one and get it done with.
Yeah.
But no, this is a 7-track, 34 minute album. Like,
yeah, 30. It's roughly 34.
Totally manageable. Really just like the size of an LP in every way possible. I wonder how they split it up. Like, it's not the easiest one you'd have split up.
Yeah.
It's like you got the first couple track, like the track 1 and 3 are about over 5 minutes. The track 2 is 3.5. Then track 4 is over 5. Then 4. Then almost 5. Then over 5. So there's no clean split.
I think there's an easy way to split this. Create a shitty B-side, put it on the end, and then one side per song. 4 LP.
That would make sense. That's
Yeah.
not here.
Yeah.
I've not heard about a vinyl exclusive track, even though they have done that before. Sunlandic Twins being a very big example.
Now, we were talking a little here before this recording, Dominic, about the titles of the songs here, and I guess even with the album here. And this is the most of Montreal title track or track titles, me bad at words and sentences. That of Montreal is probably done for a while. Like if you go back to the one that we love to make fun out of here, You're Fun, you had songs like Peace to All Freaks or Saint Sebastian, which maybe there's a bit of Montreal into this, but it's a complete different turn in the titling of this when you have stuff like Marijuana's a Working Woman or Blab Sabbath Lave of Maiden, or the most of Montreal one here because it just screams. I'm not calling this album pretentious. I'm just calling the titling sometimes pretentious, which it always has been.
Yeah.
Modern art bewilders.
Which I think is meant to be self-reflective or self-describing in a way.
Mm.
But then, like, the
Or
most obvious...
I want to say our personal favorite as well.
Yes. You have Ofrenda Flinger Ego a Go-Go. And then, Such a sharp divide. Trix, what did you think of this one?
This is my favorite of Montreal album in a long time.
Hell yeah.
I think there's probably a lot of agreements. This is probably the best of Montreal albums since Lousy with Sylvie and Brad. I don't think they put out too much great, to be fair, since Lousy with Sylvie and Brad. I think one of the things that also made that album stand out is that if you actually go back to the time and the album that's in between Daughter of Cloud, Paralytic Storks era, and Aureate Gloom. And this is kind of more random, just indie rock, not really too art rocky that of Montreal to kind of get it. So it's kind of like a standout in a weird way, but it's also a good album. Like I'm not trying to say that the only reason that Lousy with Silver and Briar is good is because it's different. I think it's genuinely one of Montreal's best albums, and even if I'm comparing just those two, I would pick Lousy with Silver and Briar. But this one it felt like there was a little bit more passion in the Of Montreal project that we haven't heard in a while. Like, I complain about Your Fun because I thought that album, outside of Peace to All Freaks, was just kind of really dad rockish, and it just didn't feel like he actually wanted to make that music. It just felt like, hey, I've got to go make this music now for some reason. And I mean, it wasn't successful commercially as it was trying to sound. So why try and go back for that commercial sound when you can just go for the sound that's actually better and more suits Of Montreal? Granted, it's not like a band has to stick with a certain sound. I'm not trying to imply that, but Of Montreal seems to be a lot better when they go in that direction.
And Kevin's so prolific anyway that, why try to chase a sound like that if you're not as interested in it? Because it's like doing this, and like the most recent thing we've covered as a show is like one from 9 years ago. This almost feels like an extension of like the later Daughter or like Paralytic Stalks ish era anyway. Where it's like you have tracks that are kind of that more, he does like a lot of like choral vocals that are kind of heavenly but kind of distorted, and it's very psych influenced in that way. Like half the tracks seem to be, and kind of like abstract and kind of, in that Of Montreal way of doing a lot of different things, different effects. And then the vocals on here are a little less important than they used to be, which is a nice, not a nice change in that, I don't like what Kevin has to say, but more in the sense of using vocals differently over 26 years is a nice, interesting change to see. But what Kevin has really introduced in the time since, like the Paralytic Stalks, Daughter of Cloud, B-Sides, Days, Lousy at Sylvie and Briar even, is just going into synthwave.
Yeah, it's very, very synthwavy.
And like that's like what the other half of this album is just the synthwave, and just showing that like Kevin can do a lot of different genres for real. And like the sound of Montreal tends to work in a lot of different classifications, despite it being both very specific and a signature, but also different enough to incorporate all these different styles.
Yeah.
Now, I just want to go on a random tangent as well, and I just remembered that whilst I played the last on Pokemon games, Sword and Shield, I actually nicknamed one of my Pokemon Kevin Barnes, and this is the final evolution of it. I just want to know if I did the right name.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a grim snarl for those who can't see because this is not a video podcast. It's a dark.
Let's make Domino do his homework and flash up an image.
Okay.
It's a dark fairy type, which I think also suits Kevin Barnes and the music.
Yes.
Yeah, he's a dark fairy.
Yes.
This album is like very gothic and horror-ish. Like, it's very fitting for Halloween.
Even though this came out. When did it come out? I think it came out July. Yeah, late July. So it's been out for a while. And I mean, the thing that also surprised me about this, I mean, this isn't the most out there of Montreal, comparingly for of Montreal. It's still pretty out there for art rock. That's what's made of Montreal actually have some appeal here. But I kind of just found that even when I thought the songs are gonna get like pretentious or something, or I'd be hearing like this kind of like. What's I can't remember which is the one where Kevin just keeps talking about how they're gonna make that pussy wet.
Oh God.
Oh God, I forgot.
It's one of them. He gets into some weird lyrics on this one, like every other one, Montreal, which I'm not quite sure if I'm really into. I'm thinking it's like, okay, all right, yep, you keep doing that, Kevin. Yep, go get that pussy, Kevin. But
get that
when someone asks me my gender, I answer brunette is a great line as well.
Yeah, as well. That was a put down the Twitter, Kevin.
Wait, let's see.
Personal favorite of
line.
Whilst you find that, my personal favorite of this album is probably actually going to be Night Sift, where I just found that just was mostly filled with the instrumentation that I love to have in an Of Montreal song. And that was kind of like when I was listening, like, yeah, I'm grooving along to this one. And that's what made me happy after listening to this. Like, this isn't I wouldn't even know if this is my favorite of the week or something. I haven't really figured that out yet. But I definitely came out a lot happier than I was originally expecting with this album, which never thought I would say that with an Of Montreal album after the past couple albums come out, but here we are.
I believe the one you were talking about is Après de classe.
Thank you.
Is it starts out with I was a pussy.
Yeah. Let's get the full lyrics up for that one, actually. Après de classe. I was the pussy in case he's a cunt. That's
A-tier songwriting. A-tier songwriting.
And where is it?
It's also a friend that has the line about Phoebe fakes orgasms as a career. Phoebe fakes orgasms nobody hears.
That one's a great line. I will defend that one.
And then the extended Wizard of Oz reference, which I found interesting and fun. I don't know if, despite everything, if they've really delved into Wizard of Oz much as an influence, but it really fits.
Indeed.
Just taking a look at the other, because I can't remember every fucking like song title and every lyric, I guess, every time, but I swear. Here we go. I was creaming when I wrote this, so forgive me if it makes you wet. If there's any position you can't come in, I haven't found it yet. Is this rap lyrics or Of Montreal? That's like off Blab Sabbath, Late of Maiden.
Incel or death metal?
The lyrics work for all four.
It does.
Except I believe that Kevin would do this.
You see, I don't think it would be a death metal one, just because I don't think death metal musicians ever care if the girl is wet.
I should specify deathcore musicians do.
That's a bit fair.
Now, see, Night Sift is the song on the album where it's like, okay, the album is doing different stuff, right? But it's like these last two tracks is where it really settles into a really nice groove, and it's like, holy shit, some of the best work I think they've done in a long time. But also, Night Sift is so like dark synth influence and like dark wave influence that it's like, man, Midnight's wished it could have done that.
Yeah.
Taylor Swift worked with Kevin on an album. Holy shit!
Just gotta go up to every Taylor Swift fan and show him Of Montreal and go, "Hey, Hey, listen to this.
Also,
You text me back.
Night Shift is totally a song that, like, if it was made at a different time, 100%, I could hear a dubstep beat being placed on top of it.
Yeah, fuck it.
Yep.
Remix it. Put a dubstep beat on top of it now. I dare somebody.
Yeah,
Oh.
I refuse to do that myself since dubstep peaked with Skrillex.
But, like, just seeing Montreal go for, like, clubby music at all is such an interesting shift.
You should specify that dubstep peaked with Far Cry 3 and the song where you burn the weed with the Skrillex song.
But also, like, there's the good dark, like, acoustic guitar notes on that really get me too. Like, there's really good, like, acoustic tones on this album. And
Kevin
like,
put out a good album, and we should just come out and say that this is a good Montreal album. Like front to back, it's pretty solid.
but it's also like the kind of guitar solo where you get to hear like the hand sliding up and down the neck. And I know that's not like proper form, but it just sounds so satisfying to hear.
Oh yeah.
Like, there's just a rawness to that it's just, that's very Kevin and very just like, oh man, that's cool.
Good album.
Really good album. This is probably my number one of the week.
And then, oh man, and then like he just ends it by just basically doing a David Bowie impression, and it's really good. Like, the last verse of Hum is very Bowie.
Kevin Barnes should just try and be David Bowie from now on. Let's be honest. Like, if there's a replacement David Bowie, I feel like Kevin Barnes is higher on the list than most.
I mean, Tilda Swinton and then Kevin Barnes, I guess.
Tilda Swinton, then Kevin Barnes. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, no, like I think, yeah, if there's anybody that's gonna try and like, I mean, Kevin will never quite have the poise and the class that David Bowie had, but
no, like my father's never gonna brag about going to see Kevin Barnes.
This album.
Just imagine kids in 50 years and they're going like, I've discovered this old Montreal album, and you're just down there like, I was here when old Montreal was still in the closet.
Yeah, I remember when Kevin Barnes was a homophobe.
I'm like, that was something I was thinking about too. Like, for all how expressive and expansive the lyrics have been over the last 20 some years, this is a whole new era where Kevin can be truly unbound and say a lot of shit.
Yeah.
I'm just imagining the shit he could have said if he was out totally back then. Oh man, those albums would have been so different.
You know the album I'm waiting for now?
What?
Rainbow Kitten Surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be interesting, actually. I'm curious to see what direction they go. Are they still keeping the same vocal style?
Yes.
So it'll be kind of like Against Me then.
Mm-hmm.
Which is great. I look forward to that. And like, if they're going to use the different singles they've put out over the last couple of years, that'll be an interesting little evolution then.
Because when our song came out, I was fucking turning that shit up.
Yeah, our song was the one that I think came out before they kind of announced everything, and then there was one after that.
I think that one was even before too, although I could be wrong.
But yeah, no album yet. I look forward to that though, and I'm sure in 2023 we'll get something of Montreal anyway, so we can talk about all this again. But
one of us needs to subscribe to Kevin's Patreon, and we need to just go do an episode where we dig through his Patreon.
Yeah, I mean, oh god, there's like I was upset because he put out like a vinyl exclusive of like the earliest of Montreal recordings called Young Froth Tapis. And it's like, damn, I want that.
It probably goes for like $600
of Montreal.
Because like the early 4-track recordings were touted as like, oh, this is the early stuff, but Young Froth Tapis is like, no, this is the earliest it gets. You both were also talking. I didn't understand what either of you said.
I just said all you want for Christmas is South Montreal.
Yeah.
And I said it probably goes for like $600 on Discogs now.
Probably. But yeah, so I mean, other things to mention. This is an album, this is an isolation album. This is, the COVID album. So it's like other things that were happening. I think it was like Kevin's mom had died during the making of this album, and his dog had died. The dog he's had for like 15 years apparently.
God damn.
So a lot of grief on this album also, which I think also talks about more directly. So I mean, maybe that's a part of it too, is like kind of injecting a different element like that makes some of this pop off in a different way than some of the other albums have done.
Mm-hmm.
You know, using your emotions and your feelings as an artist. I mean, Kevin's so adept at that. That's what all of this has been about for so long.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, very, very dark, haunted, gothic album. What is Freewave? Freewave is just doing whatever the fuck you want and not caring about genres.
Yeah. This is easily my favorite of the week, I'm going to be honest.
Trix, this is the third time this episode you've been entirely honest.
Yeah, because I'm tired, kind of drunk, and a little high.
Fair enough.
It's been a day.
Well, let's move along. Favorites, least
it's
favorites. Personal favorite is probably Night Sift on here. Least favorite, probably Modern Art Bewilders or A Friend of Flago, Ego or Gargle. If I'm not that completely wrong.
Favorites are Night Sift and Hum. Least favorite is let's say Apres de Classy. That or A Friend of Flager, but probably Apres just for the sake of it.
Favorites for me, Night Sift and I have no least favorite.
When that beat came down for Night Sift, I was like, holy shit, I just gotta say that. That was amazing.
Enough.
All right.
Agreed.
You're
now so we're going down to the blender now. Which one's the next blended?
So you know, in the sense that Montreal is like a bigger chunk in that it's much more less of a noted. It's not as much of a blunder. It's not as much of a blended thing. The other thing that fits in with this category, like it's the most accomplished, the most itself. It sets out to do the thing it accomplishes as much as it can. That's gonna be the Raccoon Love EP.
I don't know if I agree with that.
Like, it is what it is, and you cannot ask for more than that. It is the very first thing they put out.
That is true, but I more mentioned the kind of whole blender section. I thought this was now. Admittedly, I don't think this is the most blender out of everything we listen to, but when we get to there, we'll get to it. I remember when you first brought up Raccoon Love, and you were particularly worried the whole time, saying this is just a really shitty Petite League knockoff, blah blah blah, that they weren't really that good, and you're kind of just worried. But we kind of went and said, like, no, they're doing their own thing kind of here, and it's, you know, it's fine. It's not groundbreaking or anything. It's fine. Mm-hmm. And I'm not here to say to this EP even that it's shitty, because it's again, yeah, it is just them doing their own thing. I don't disagree with that.
It's fun.
Young musicians trying shit.
I found this a lot harder to get into than the newer stuff. I thought the singles like Kid Rockstar and even I remember the B-side to Cassette Runner, which we finally listened to now. That one was a little rough, but it was a little still bit more better produced. Yeah. This one's kind of like very lo-fi, very DIY stuff you'd think would work more in its favor here, but it just feels way too underproduced for me to really care about this, to be honest. Sure. And it's a little probably. I mean, granted, I haven't met the people from Raccoon Love, so I don't have as much context as you two here. This kind of just more felt like, hey, this is some random YouTube video or something, or album that your friends have put on, and they really want you to listen and give a review, and you go like, well, they seem to be enjoying themselves, so really what matters? And that's how I felt about this.
Fair. I don't disagree necessarily. I mean, the song that has like the most production is Grimy Raccoon, because there's like some sound effects and stuff. Mm-hmm. And like a "get the fuck out of my trash" kind of moment, which is, you know,
that was
fun enough. Yeah. But, you know, doing the due diligence, I remember I was going to do this at one point in a different time, and I remember it reminded me of like the Slythamine EP, because it has the backwards Ortney as a track, and I think what do you have on Slythamine that's backwards? Is it just Slythamine?
Yeah, it's Slythamine backwards.
Yeah, and so
so I feel like you've just insulted Raccoon Love.
but have I though? What is the difference between Ritalin for Kids' output and the earliest Raccoon Love?
Ritz is less sincere about it.
I was gonna say the ukulele, but then I remembered my earliest output.
Yes, ukulele is all over this album.
Wait, shit! Hold on. Sports Ball first came out. in 2018. This comes out in 2019. Guess who's suing for royalties, boys?
I mean, this is Raccoon Love's been around only a little bit longer than us. You know, we debuted the same year.
Yeah.
And you know, we
should
met
I brought
Cam
a
and
ukulele
Nathan.
to this podcast?
Hell yeah.
That's yeah, okay.
We met Cam and Nathan when we went to Nashville last year.
Yeah, they seemed like cool people.
Yeah, we all took a picture together. And yeah, I was apprehensive at first when covering them because it's like, you know, we hadn't really quite gone into like total DIY stuff at that point, you know. That's kind of a thing we've more done lately than we did back then, where was not used to it being a rougher sound or it being a more, how did I say that, artistically or artist specifically driven piece, where it's like, well, you kind of got to look at the vision, you kind of got to look at what they're trying to do, you know. And I think actually covering Ritz's stuff has really opened me to doing more of that in that way, actually, unironically. And
thus, the podcast was saved by my shitty podcast, thanks to Blossom, Buttercup, and Bubbles. It's been a while since I've
Since the Powerpuff Girls are mostly sugar and spice, you could actually probably ferment them into like a wine.
Yeah, I
think they do plenty of
I don't
wine.
want to hear you doing any comparisons or any analogies that has wine and little girls tricks.
Fair enough. What if it's the song, the Oingo Boingo song, Little Girls?
That's fine. I'm not finishing that. We're not getting any out of context hit shit.
But this whole episode is very John Waters-esque. You know, you got a lot of like grimy realism. You got a lot of like gender play and drag queens, and you know, some trashiness in it too. So I'm very
trash.
Yeah, I'm very pleased by the variety of output, and there really isn't a ton to say about this EP. Like, I like that we just covered it, like having the B-side kind of done and kind of just seeing where they are now. It's like, yeah, I think Cameron's vocals are much more like, he shoots for a lot more, I feel like, in these earlier tracks, where something like Kid Rockstar, he's a bit more blunt and deadpan.
Yeah.
And maybe that's like the style he's developing and that works best for him. But I do kind of miss the, and I guess like something like Smile also still has it on Cassette Runner, but I do hope he still kind of looks at that variety and doesn't just try to go the one way, because I do like I'm not saying Cameron's the best singer in the world, but it does work nicely to hear him try.
Yeah.
I got nothing else to say about it. The B-side, we'll say, felt pretty off-key. Well, not off-key, so like they weren't really getting it on the right beat, sorry, is the word I mean. And it kind of bothered me a little. Yeah, that's really it. Like, what else am I supposed to say?
I will shout out Your Day and Far Away as a single on their Spotify for being different takes than what's on the album Ballads of Adolescence, where they eventually will wind up.
Yeah.
Having them be completely redone is kind of nice and cool, and kind of more fitting in that album's production style, because the Far Away, that's originally a single, is much, it's just arranged differently, like completely. And a bit, I think probably a bit rougher for that, but it's just kind of cool to see the evolution of their songcraft, even at this stage in their career.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know, like, what is a favorite, what is a least favorite, you know?
Well, least favorite's B-side, and then the favorite's Kid Rockstar, and then this EP kind of just like exists.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
Sure, I'll second that. I do like the fun production in Grimy Raccoon, though. Even if the love song analogy, your love is like a grimy raccoon eating trash. Like, yeah, you know.
Hey, wait. Shit. I'm trying to think of when I made my raccoon love it. My love and raccoon fucking analogy, and I think it was after this album came out. Fuck. I might get sued.
Oh no. Well,
I'll link the tweet in a minute.
For art for this episode, we got a Pokemon and we've got a tweet. Anyway, yeah, nice little thing to cover. Now we really just kind of got the blended ingredients here for me, and I guess we can try to go in terms of, well, do you want to go from like thinnest to thickest, because that's how a smoothie would be. The thinnest liquid would rise to the top. Or do you want to go like best quality to worst quality? We could do that too. It really depends on what you want to do.
I've made you choose the whole thing for this whole episode, so you continue on.
All right, so now that we're into like the blended segment, let's go into what's probably like the most noticeable chunk, like the most colorful chunk. If you look at the glass of smoothie before you, and I'm gonna say let's talk about Zam.
Trix, I need acknowledgement that you can hear me.
Trix.
Hold on. There's only one way to wake her up. Trix! That's gonna wake everybody up that was listening to this podcast. Well, whilst Trix has completely died on us, I've got one thing to say about this album. I like this album, by the way. I'm putting that out here before all of it. But I got one thing to say about this, and I want to see if you agree with me. And Dominic, whether or not you've had this thought, whether you will now have this thought, or if you just disagree entirely.
Yeah.
King Gizzard and a Lizard Wizard.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
This is King Giz. This is like Ty Segall. This is OCs. This is all of that.
Yeah. No, don't get me wrong. It's not like they don't exist in their own space, as we have officially lost Trix. Sorry about that. The show must go on. She will come back when she comes back.
She wanted to find a tweet and they killed her.
Yeah. It just does exist in kind of its own space here. But I kind of listened to it and I was bopping along and I was just like, din 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 din, not I got infinity. I was like, yeah. That's what I'm getting the vibes of here. It sounds like stuff that we've covered before. And there's probably a lot of people, like I know some people who are into Frankie and Witch Fingers. They're very much into them. I'm not trying to say that they're ripping off or anything like that, because obviously a lot of these sounds can sound very similar. But that was the one thing that was stopping me from really saying, okay, this is a full standout album, is that I've just kind of heard it before. Like, I like it. I like the sound. I don't mind it. I'll give the album probably another listen. If I find it secondhand, I'll pick it up without a second thought, because I like the sound, but I've heard it before.
Yeah, it's very psych influence. It's very like, jammy. I know the track Zam itself is actually just a jam, pretty much.
Yeah.
Not much prior preparation to just, we got some stuff left on the tape, let's go. But it's a psych scene band. LA has a lot of psych bands, a lot of psych things going on. I think, is Clement Claypool based out in LA? I can't remember, but
maybe
Lennon Clay. Yeah, I think I said that right.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
You got
Lennon Claypool delivering. Yeah.
Yeah, you got like Ty Segal's out there. I think the OCs are out there. So it's all like a familiar territory in that sense. It's all among friends. And of course, King Gizzard, it's kind of like the Pantheon entrance in all of that. But
now, Trix, are you back? Nah, she's not. Never mind.
Hello.
We're having a bit of technical issues on there, but again, this show must go on somehow, and I had to figure out how to say, a bit of work about this album, because it's kind of just like, I agree in a bit with this being a bit more of a blended album compared to what we've listened to. Yeah. Just because I did think it was getting a bit samey at times. Like, it wasn't like, oh, here's a standout song here, there's a standout song here. It works that this is an album, so yes. I'm not going into it thinking like I have to have a standout song. It's like, there was one album I gave it a listen to quite earlier in the year, or like midway through this year, and it was one I was meaning to catch up onto, and that was the Floating Points of Pharaoh Sanders album, in which that is practically the same song in different movements all the time, but that's an album, and that's the context of it. Yeah. So if it sounds similar the whole time, I don't mind. And hello, Trix is finally back. You have completely missed me comparing. I will now ask this question to you, and this statement to you, because Dominic fully agreed, and I want to know if you agree, if you now just see the comparison here, or if you disagree entirely. And that statement was just King Gizzard and Lizard Wizard.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Frankie.
Cool. Not alone in it.
Yep. Frankie and the Witch Fingers, King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. The
cat.
What?
There's a cat in my room being a fucking idiot.
Apparently, the Frankie and the Witch Fingers is also a cat.
Hell yeah.
Good cat.
Did you know that this band's from Bloomington, Indiana, Trix?
Shit, I did not.
And they're from Bloomington, moved to LA. Unfortunately, the cat could not be moved to LA.
That's too bad.
surprisingly, their fourth most, and by surprisingly I mean unsurprisingly with the King Gizzard comparisons, their fourth most listened to place on Spotify at the moment is Melbourne.
Sure, absolutely. Another comparison I was hearing a lot of, and I try not to say this very often. I only try to say it when I feel like it's a fresh take on this or like a more direct comparison more than most. Is that I was getting a good amount of Beatles vibes of like that really lush or like psych instrumentation.
Yeah, I can totally get what you mean.
Like stuff like Realization, I feel like has it really well. But more than a lot of things are Beatles influenced. The Beatles are fucking everywhere, right? But
yeah,
I was hearing it more here than 90% of the stuff that's out there that can say that they're Beatles influenced.
Yeah,
and they're longer songs since I like some longer songs. There's nothing here that's totally revolutionary. I don't know if all the long songs truly earn their long songness. They are jams. They are just hanging out, but
yeah,
they do well enough. Zam has like a Motorhead feel to it, and it's like we were saying before. It's a riff that turned into a jam. They kind of just improv it and kept going, but yeah,
it's a fine kind of psychedelic rock album.
Yeah,
I don't really have much more to say about it. I like it, but it doesn't mean
it's just American King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard.
Yeah, basically.
Purple Velvet was a good standout because I felt like that one actually had definitive lyrics. Like they were really going for something on that one, where a lot of the lyrics here are very basic.
Actually, one thing I did want to say as well is that this is an interesting week when it came to artists performing in Sydney, because obviously we're doing Sly Withers and Frankie and the Witchfingers, and they're both performing next week at the same venue on consecutive days, and it's like, oh, that was interesting. And I actually think Frankie and the Witchfingers would be a really great show to see live, but I spent my money on Black Midi tickets instead, so
that's fine.
Sorry about that.
But I do agree, seeing them live would be really cool.
Yeah, they seem like a band that's better live.
They have a live album released in 2020, Levitation Sessions.
A whole bunch of psych rock bands got it. Like Slift got one, OC's got two.
King Gizzard has a Levitation Sessions as well.
Yeah.
Also, there's also the other band to shout out here in this field that we've covered before.
Mm-hmm.
I guess for me, psych has always been a harder genre for me to get into, and I think this is also like, as in a double-edged sword way. A lot of these songs do kind of just sound similar-ish and are, not always super standouts, but have a good vibe.
Although I will say it doesn't sound the most similar as one of the other albums that we picked this week.
No, quite what you mean by that.
You'll find out. You'll find out.
Alrighty then.
Favorites, least favorites, I guess. No one else has anything to say?
Evil Sorcerer was a favorite.
Doc
I think it's called Evil Sorcerer.
Dark
Sorcerer. Sorry, I don't have the thing pulled up, and I dare not do it, or else my phone crash again.
Yeah, fair enough.
But I feel like that song should actually just be called Heavy Door, because I think that song is called Heavy Door more than I do. I think it is Dark Sorcerer.
Fair.
No real least favorites. This is just a fun album.
I'd agree with that. No real least favorites here, but I do like Purple Velvet for trying something a little bit different. I love a song like Work, which is, the vocals are, I work for you, you work for me. I work for you, you work for me.
That riff is pretty fun too.
And the fun of I Am being like a minute track, and then Underneath You being a 9-minute track, and then it's like I'm underneath you. Good joke. Love that. And Zam's a nice little jam. Yeah, it's a good time overall. Not the most original thing in the world.
Disagree. I'll agree with Dominic for laziness.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Now, as we get down this smoothie, doesn't mean that things are better or worse than anything else. Just means that there's a lot of blended material. And since we mentioned them already, let's talk about the Sly Withers album, Overgrown. What I have to say about this album in a top shelf sense is that there's a lot of good songs on here. But goddamn, there are a lot of songs that sound the same on here.
I would put in, so obviously you and me were pretty happy with the last Sly Withers album. We both had it in our top 10s, if I'm correct. Did you have it in top 10 or top 20? You had it pretty high in yours.
Probably top 20, I would imagine. Let me double check it though.
Yeah. You had yours high. I know you definitely were a big fan of Clarkson as well. Same with me. We both had those high in our songs list. And came into this album with the singles.
Like 12, I think it was. Yeah, 12.
Yeah, Passing Through and Radio. Passing Through, which was fine to listen to, and Radio, which I was actually really happy with. I think that's still the best song off here. Because I was kind of happy that they were starting to go into, like, they were teasing elements of going into a bit more math rocky at times there, and I was just like, oh, maybe we can start to see a bit more complexity in Sly Withers coming out. And the albums come out, and I like it. I like the album, but it's very clear from an early standpoint of this album, and it's what shakes me, and it goes, like, this album feels like a sophomore slump to an album that was their sophomore, because that's what Gardens was. That was their sophomore record, and I think it also was. I think the others are EPs, if I remember.
Yes.
And this, even the title reads as it. It's the same thing that was with the Spacey Jane album, which I still think this is better than the Spacey Jane album that came out this year, but it doesn't feel like its own album in its outright. It feels like it either wants to be a continuation of the last album, or what this actually feels like, and this is what I kind of feels like it started off being, and I figured they're going to just put out an album. This feels like B-sides and offcuts to Garden.
Well, yeah, I can see that. Like, my problem really is that, like, I will come back to this album, and I'll put on a song like Sundays, and be like, oh yeah, that's a great song. But to get to Sundays, listening to the album through is such a slog, in a way. Of just like...
There is... Yeah, it's an album which I definitely was hoping for a lot more from.
As an album, it doesn't necessarily work, but as individual songs and like a style that they're doing of like this kind of emo but punk, but a couple other things style.
There are definitely still things I will say on this album though, that were on their first album, which are one of the big reasons I was drawn into Sly Withers. Now, if you go back into that first review, you will hear me say this, and I stand by it, that Gardens had the best chemistry between two clearly different sounding vocalists in pop punk since Enema of the State. And that chemistry is still here. I don't think there's... I feel like there might be a little bit more single focus on Jono's vocals, but when it comes to the actual albums, we've still got both of them.
Yeah.
On here, I still think there's enough difference between their vocal styles on here as well that it makes the band have a bit of a draw to them, even if it's not groundbreaking in a sense like they're the first to do it. It's kind of also like, well, they're the best ones doing it at the moment, and it's what kind of draws me to them.
Yeah, it's a very palatable sound, very radio friendly, very just nice to hear.
And radio friendly isn't always a bad thing.
Right. I'm not saying in this case it is.
Yeah.
It's just like this is a band that would have done really well in the 2000s as well.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I wanted to fucking talk about though was the lyrics and the opening lyrics to this album, which was I'm not quite sure what to fucking think about it. And can I even get the lyrics up? Do I have to? Goddamn. Let's see if the CD has any of it. You two talk about yourself.
Yeah, the Genius does not have it, which is surprising. Not on Lyrics Mania either.
Oh, it does?
Oh, yeah, this is a rarity. We're not even getting any lyrics that we need to study. And we were making fun of the fucking Yabi Time for having the I'm not gonna even try, I'm sorry note for I Am Who I Am, Simon, but
this is why you buy CDs and physical media, by the way, because it does come with the lyric sheet. So this is the opening lyrics to the whole album. It's mid to late August, and everyone's gardens are all overgrown. Too much time on their own, but the sun's coming out again. Then we'll blink and another year's over again. I thought it was this time of year when you're meant to plant all of the tomatoes and all of the garlic and maybe the onions too. I was dead wrong, but that's not a reflection on you. I'm sorry I don't have your green fun. And I'm still conflicted if I like these lyrics or not.
I like them enough.
I feel like he goes on a bit of a ramble, which I like, but I also don't know if I like it.
Trix, what do you think about them?
I've been okay. So I've been listening to a lot of modern country because that's what they play at my fucking job. So I'm listening to that every shift. And I hear that sound in this album, and once I heard that sound, my brain just kind of shut off and refused to listen to it, no matter how many times I played it.
I'm so thankful I did not hear that sound.
I kind of see it, but I feel like this is different enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, but for me,
I mean, like, I think the thing to say, of course, is that no song on here is quite a Clarkson, but you can't just replicate Clarkson.
No, and they haven't tried to replicate Clarkson, which I'm happy about.
Yes.
I think there were still some good songs off here. Obviously, like you said, I think the singles were great. Radio, and Passing Through, specifically Radio. I think that one's the highlight of this record. I do agree with you on Sundays. Liar actually gave me a little bit more hope in this record. When I wasn't too sure on the first song, Liar, I thought was, yeah, it's alright. Like, is it supposed to be a bit of a dramatic pop punk song? Yeah, but I think they execute it well, so I don't really have any complaints about that. Hotel Stuck, also a good one and something, but then there's a lot of other stuff on here which is like, if I really wanted to go back to this sound, I feel like they just did it better on Gardens, and I don't want to always compare apples to slightly older apples here, but when this album feels like it's the biggest gripe I have with it. Like, I still like it because there's enough on here that I'll go back to and listen to, and there's enough just like good songs of here that make it go into like good album, but it just doesn't stretch into the whole great albums of the year like Gardens did, because Gardens felt like a consistent pop punk record, whilst this feels like B-sides, it doesn't know if it wants to be that continuation. It doesn't know if it wants to be the B-sides. It doesn't know if it wants to explore. It doesn't know if it wants to stay grounded. And instead, we've got a mixed bag of songs. And yeah, when you get a mixed bag of songs, you are going to get some good sound. So it's not like I have a complaint about this being a mixed bag in that case. It's a mixed bag in quality because they're not always so sure what to do with the songs. And sometimes they just do nothing.
I think the album title is pretty self-reflective of what I feel about it. It's an overgrown album. There's just too much here.
Yeah.
I feel like if they pruned it and cut back a little bit and maybe arranged it a little more effectively, it would have been a lot better.
I feel like also, yeah, if this was, I know I'm repeating myself here, but it's true. I feel like if this was advertised as just B-sides, it would have a little less critique, I guess, on here, or a little bit more understanding with its context. But I mean, they're a band, they're gonna go sell the album. Why are you gonna sell it as a B-sides when you're this young? You don't really have, like, Sly Withers have a following, but they don't have like a dedicated following that's already been established, like bands like Frankie and the Wishfingers probably have.
Yeah.
So you are just putting out the albums and trying to get commercial success. So I don't blame them. And I mean, how long can the success that they got from Gardens actually last? Do you have to just keep putting stuff out before you eventually fade out, and you can do what you want to do a little bit more casually? Who really knows? But
the unfortunate thing though is that, like, when I was doing the research for this album, like, according to them, this is like the time when they were using that cachet and that money and that fame they got from Gardens, and they spent 5 weeks in the studio making this.
I mean, I can believe that.
Yeah,
like, it's polished, but there was a great image I saw of them kind of like trying to figure out which tracks were making it, which tracks weren't, kind of moving things around, kind of like, man, this one maybe. But it's like, it's not B-sides.
I know. I'm just saying what it feels like.
Right, I'm saying, like, that's the thing, is like, it's not B-sides. They fully intended this to be the follow-up, which is,
if there are a bunch of songs as well cut out, I do want to know what they've cut out.
Yeah,
like were they? Because when it feels like it's an album that they're not sure. Like, yeah, you can get all those clips and the media pieces out there that says, this is the we're playing it like this and blah blah blah, and you do have to trust the musician's word in this case, because they do know more about the creation of the album than we do, because they created the fucking album.
Right.
Yeah.
And as I'm again saying, I like this album. I think it's a bit of a slump, yeah, but it doesn't mean I come away going like, oh, bad album, because there's enough songs in here that I enjoy.
Mhm.
And when I see him live next Friday from a recording here, I'll probably still enjoy when they're playing the newer songs because I like this band, and I mean Gardens still gets in my rotation after all this time. But that's just the thing is that I wanted this to kind of like after having gone into listening to this and going and digesting it, I wanted to be like, all right, Sly Withers are going to be the pop punk band of the decade or something like that, and instead, what it could potentially be, and I hope not, we'll see how they go from here. It's not like it could just be a stomp, and the next album could be a massive return to form, or it could get a bunch of other things. And I've also seen people commenting on this album and stuff who think it's better than Gardens. So it could just be our personal taste here. That's how music works. But how it more feels like, instead of it being that potential Sly Withers being the pop punk band of the decade, it could just be Gardens is the pop punk album of the decade, which is not a bad thing. And I don't mean this as the number one kind of thing, but it's a kind of like, okay, so it's like, how are we going to remember this? Is this just going to be Gardens that remember this, or is it going to be Sly Withers? And that's where I'm not sure about.
And that sounds like we
would
can really
be the question.
You have much
That
more to
being
say
said,
about it, Trix?
I just wanted to quickly say I do enjoy Radio quite a lot. That is a really fucking good song, and I need to just stress it. Mwah.
I didn't like this album that fucking long, to be honest.
That's fine.
It's fair.
You already said you couldn't get into it because you felt it was a bit too country, which I'm pointing out, even though that I'm critiquing this and I critiqued Raccoon Love, neither of those are my least favorite of this week.
Yeah.
Yeah. Radio, my notes are very minimal because this is an album where it's like it's hard to take a lot of notes because everything to me sounds so similar. It's like what is there to really say at a certain point? But Radio is definitely the one where like I really feel like I should like this more. Why don't I? And I don't have an answer for that.
Because you couldn't listen to the radio.
It's hard to give a least favorite for this, but I will say my standouts are like Sundays, Liar, Passing Through.
Favorites, Liar, Radio, Passing Through, Something, Sundays. Least favorite, probably going to be either. Well, even though I'm not sure how to feel about the opener, I'd probably say my least favorite's probably Last. I thought it was just a bit of an overdone ending. Probably could have ended at something. Probably could have ended it old enough. Yeah, we wouldn't have gone to Sundays, but probably was fine to end around there. It was an album that went a little too long.
Yeah.
And you're just all Blunder Tricks.
Yeah, I'll blunder on this one for me.
If you got any lyrics that you would like to add some questions through, whilst you can't find it on Genius, I do have the whole lyric book right here. So ask your question now or forever hold your peace, Dominic.
Give me a taste of Don't Wanna Leave.
I thought you were about to say the one where it talks about the tongue down in tongue. Go stick your tongue down the throat of someone you used to know, which is the Phoebe Bridgers reference. All right. Any specific line from Don't Want to Leave, or you want me to just read the whole thing?
Like that was a song that had some strings and some piano sadness to it, but like I don't remember what the lyrics were.
I don't want to leave, but I know I have to. I'm doing this for me, but it's equally for you. You gave me these walls, kept me safe through my falls. I don't feel alright, but that will come in time. And if 6 weeks I'm back here, and this time I storm out, it's probably to do with me hating how I turned out. And how you must feel, though I know you won't admit, about my future and all of my bullshit, which probably a reference to my bullshit also on there from the last album.
Yeah.
I don't really know which way I should be going till I've got one foot in the wrong train, doors closing. I don't really know where the fuck I should go. It looked like a D with the fucking person. Where the fuck I should stand, but it's good to know the flowers in your mug made you less of a man. I know you don't mean it like that, and I know I overreact, but now that I've taken some breaths and some backward steps, I see you're not the problem, you're merely a symptom. And if in 2 weeks I'm back here I've let it go now, it's probably to do with me realizing deep down that no matter how hard I've tried to play the victim, you want the best for me no matter the friction. I don't really know which way I should be going till I've got one foot in the wrong train, doors closing. I don't really know where the fuck I should stand, and if I knew that you would help if I asked, I just think that I need to work this out firsthand.
Fair
enough. So there's elements of good lyric writing in there, and there's also elements of like you kind of struggling to find a rhyme or whatever.
Yeah, it's passable, but it's not like an amazing like, oh my god, that's so poetic.
Yeah,
it's a situation.
They do struggle to write the opening line. Who would have guessed, huh? It's not like that's how they opened their first album.
And that was a great opening.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe they just felt more honest with their like it's not like they're unhonest or anything here, but it felt like a bit more open on Gardens as well.
I agree. And also, like, I think the single word or like 2 short word song titles also kind of make me glaze over a little bit. It just feels so generic and uninspired. Like, stupid being a standout only because it's the certain spelling of stupid is not something I would want to say about anything.
Yeah, that's very fair.
Yeah.
But anyway, as I go put this down, you two can start talking about an album that I really, really did not care for.
Yeah, no, the Trixie Mattel album, the Blonde and Pink albums. This is the bottom of the smoothie.
Yeah.
Trix, kind of your namesake, a little bit.
Sorta, yeah. I don't really go by Trixie anymore.
That's fair. This is another Shaky Graves kissed project, so that's kind of why I chose it. But
and I mean, you've already kind of heard my opinion on the Shaky Graves aspect of it already.
Not on air, I don't think.
Not on air, but like during the just in the chat, and I said something along the lines of it's like buying a supercar and not using the engine properly.
Yeah, basically.
Because they were on Fallon or Kimmel or one of those late night shows.
Yeah,
and Trixie was there performing, and Shaky Graves like off to the side and looking at it. He only has 2 lines.
Yeah,
I want to say, my actual biggest gripe, and it took me a while to realize a lot of why I didn't like this album, and specifically something big that I didn't like about it. Because I wonder
if we have the same complaint. I wonder if we have the same complaint. Just keep going.
Yep, I'm just going to open it up with everything that I have in the background for this, which is why I struggled to care about this album. And I really just didn't care about the whole context, not because of anything of like I hate this type of thing. I'm not interested in it. Like drag queens and drag races and RuPaul's Drag Race, none of that screamed entertainment to me. Like I understand that people obviously watch it quite a lot because it's a show that's had many spin-offs and many different seasons and stuff like that. So obviously there's a lot of following for it. And then if someone's popular from that show, they're going to get a following as well. And that seems to be what it is with Trixie Mattel. And that's fair enough. I personally just not interested. It's not my type of thing. So why would I go follow it? And the album as well is kind of just a bit pop. It tries to be pop rocky, I guess, but it's mostly just poppy. And I was listening to it. It's like, again, this is not my type of sound. I'm just not interested. But then the more I kept going into it and the more I kept listening in the same album and the more, and I'm specifically saying more for a goddamn fucking reason here because it felt like a slog. I realized something by the 7th song, which is how long it took for a pretty short record here. This was the same fucking song every time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do.
Yeah, every single fucking song on here. And until a point where my brain finally shut off where I got the realization and I just stopped listening to it, was a theme song for some shitty reality TV show that I could not give a crap about. I could make many comments about it. Most reality TV shows out there, I'm sure people have probably made their comments about RuPaul themselves, which, fair enough. I think some of them, we're going into some of their history a bit fair enough, but I'm neither here nor there because I really don't watch this stuff. But
he has a fracking ranch.
Yeah, that's one of the things I was talking about. Yeah, a bit more. But when every song sounds like a theme song for a shitty reality TV show, and not only that, like a shitty theme song for a shitty reality TV show, I really, really just don't want to listen to it. And that's how this album went. Do I think this is bad? Even though I kept saying shitty all the time like that, but that's just me exaggerating. I think if you're into this style of music, this is probably one of the better ones out there. But I also think if you're into this style of music, then you probably haven't eaten ice cream that isn't vanilla flavored.
Yeah.
Ironic, because like the whole point of like drag and all that is to embrace counterculture and to stand out and be yourself.
What fucking counterculture is on this record?
That's the problem.
Yeah.
I chose this because I don't watch RuPaul. I don't really engage in a lot of that stuff. But I do think
ironically, you get more counterculture in a Tom MacDonald record.
Fuck. But, I am interested in the fact that a number of drag queens have their own like careers as musicians and things like that. I think that's interesting, and RuPaul has had so many fucking albums out there. It's like, this Trixie is somebody who's a more popular drag queen now who has a fucking ton of shit going on in her life. Like, so many shows. Trixie Mattel, of course, is probably the shitty reality show where her and her husband basically are redoing a motel to open to the public, and it's Trixie Mattel, so it's it's gonna be that branding. But like, there's so much that she's doing that guesting on this show, doing this podcast, this really powerful drag queen, and there's a lot of branding. There's a makeup line, book publishing. It's the whole deal. And
counterculture right there.
Yeah. Making a name. But listening to this album, this is one of the few albums this year I just hated.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was like, I wanted to give it a shot. I wanted to do the Shaky Graves thing. I was going to choose this a long time ago because of the Shaky Graves thing, but I chose other more important stuff. But this album, it's like, I just wanted to do it just to get it out there. I wanted to try it. But like, this to me is like the Foxy Shazam level shit of like, oh my God, why did you do this? Like, the problem is that
I did not look at I was quickly say, I did not look at the lyrics for this album at all. So I can't judge on that yet because I just simply did not care to do that. Yeah. But I'm putting this in a debate with Midnight's, and I think Midnight's will probably win it.
Oh, Midnight's has better lyrics for sure. Some of these lyrics are fucking awful. Some of them are so fucking simplistic and just Like, I wonder if I start to consider this album, like, when I talk about focus grouping and everything like that. I'm wondering if I'm starting to consider it with Motionless in White. Yeah, no, I was a defender of Motionless in White. I'll take Motionless in White over this any fucking day.
Yeah.
But I have a lot of problems I have problems with the production of this record. I think this Goner specifically just sounds like she's doing karaoke over a song.
Probably is.
And it's like, it's so disjointed. The vocals don't really match anything going on in the beats. And it's just like, yep, okay, I got some musicians to make a basic beat I can just sing on and talk about stuff. And oh boy, a goner. Oh boy, I want a boyfriend. Let me talk about Loretta, the coal miner's daughter. Oh boy, get a grip, Loretta.
So she's married and wants a boyfriend. I mean, I'm not going to I'm not going to judge anyone's kinks here. That's not what this podcast is for. But I just want to make sure he knows.
Love is love. Stick your dick in a salad dressing bottle.
I'm almost out, so it's free to use.
But going back to my points
What's French dressing?
Going back to my points here. Another thing I really dislike about these songs is it's the same fucking it's the same instrumentation. It's always this fucking background chorus of doot doos and ooh oohs and all this bullshit that just makes it sound so happy and poppy, and it's just like this is fake. This is saccharine. This is bullshit.
Yeah.
To cover fucking Cheap Trick on here, it's like, why? You love Cheap Trick so much. I get that you use them on your inspiration board to guide this album, but like, this isn't Cheap Trick. Like, nothing on this album screams Cheap Trick to me until you just did I Want You to Want Me. The only songs on this album that feel any different than anything else are the last two. The Shaky Graves feature, This Town, and Vacation, because Vacation's a fucking go-go song, and you made it a ballad instead of the pop song that it was. That's something, I guess.
Yeah.
But I just have I just kind of feel like it's why? Oh yeah, oh man, being a housewife. Oh no, the girl of your dreams, who loves you, baby. Oh, please stay the night. It's just such a basic shit. Why is this double album? Why market this as a double album? What about this?
Gotta get them streams.
The instrumentation is slightly different between the two of them. Blonde and Pink. There is a slight difference, right? But
yeah,
I just find so much of it insipid and so much of it just
okay.
A waste of space.
The best description I can probably put of it as well is, imagine when I released Death Slamming Fun. If I made one song go and the other one go,
yeah,
Did those even pick up?
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
Yeah, then that's about it. Could you tell? You could probably tell a very slight difference in there, but really, what was the fucking point? I think I actually had more differences in my songs, and I hate my work. So if I'm thinking I'm better, then I think that's the problem.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't have enough to say. No favorites. Everything's the least favorite.
Yeah, this album sucks.
yeah, it's bad. This Town and Vacation are the only two songs that are worth anything on this album. Everything else is just noise. Everything else is just there. Foxy is probably still the worst record for me, only because I'm disappointed as a fan of that band. But yeah, no, yeah. Eesh.
And so that we go into our rankings for the week, and I will just get started on here. And I believe we probably, we won't have that much difference. I think we can all agree that Trixie Mattel was last, and then not really worry about it from there.
Yeah.
After that, which is actually miles above, I'm going to put Raccoon Love. Then I'm going to be very lazy because I think these albums both have faults and both have good reasons to like them. That I'm just going to tie them because I think one is more consistent. However, I feel like one has higher peaks. So I'm going to tie the Frankie and the Witch Fingers and the Sly Withers album. And it kind of means that by default, I'm kind of picking it. But when you think about it, it probably actually is the best album of the week, is the of Montreal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I struggle with whether Raccoon Love should be above or below the tie, but I'll just agree with you.
My order is a little bit different. It's obviously Trixie Mattel at the bottom. But I'm going to go Sly Withers. I'm going to put Frankie and the Witch Fingers, then Raccoon Love, and then of Montreal at the top.
That's not different.
It's not? I thought it was. Sorry,
No.
I'm like trailing off here.
Like, I'm either agreeing, like, literally it's either I'm agreeing with Ritz or I'm agreeing with Trix. Raccoon Love is either above or below the tie.
Yeah.
So there isn't Montreal gets unanimous.
Yes.
But yeah, of Montreal is unanimous.
Well, Kevin, you unlock the celebratory condoms. You can finally be the pervert that you wanted to be.
Like I said, no kink shaming. Let's stop that now.
Except those with humiliation.
I just said they can be the pervert they want. There was no kink shaming when I go and give them consent.
I meant more about the corn dogs. You know why those are there?
We don't talk about the corn dogs.
I've smoked out of a corn dog before.
Incredible.
But yes,
impressive.
Unanimous winner. Kevin Barnes does it again.
Hell to the Kevy Kev.
Shall we go into what we're picking for next week?
Yes, I'll go first.
Go ahead.
All right, you told me you were gonna pick an album called Daisy Chain, and I already picked this. I'm like, oh yeah, I have an album that can go with this. I wanted to explore this because you denied it from us previously. I would like to do Big Scary's Daisy.
Well, that is not what I expected, but that is very fair enough.
It's a pretty short album, so I'm gonna also give in to you. I'm gonna blink. I'm gonna flinch. I'm gonna end our standoff.
I was starting to type this one in.
I'm gonna end our standoff and do "Hey, I Love You" psychokinetic love songs as well.
All right.
Finally, I win a game of chicken.
So that's about an hour of music between the two.
That is fair, and I've myself, as one has been spoiled, so I may as well go on and talk about it. Yes, I'm doing now the Battle of the Aussie Emo, in which I think the two hard hitters of Aussie Emo at the moment and currently release their albums week after week. So obviously last week now we just had Sly Withers with Overgrown. Well, here's one that I actually discovered way before Sly Withers, and personally for a while actually thought was a lot better, and now we're going to debate and see which one is actually better. So that's slowly Daisy Chain. That was the one that was spoiled. However, there is another album that I'm picking up here today, which is 21 minutes long, and I'm basically using it as a tax write-off because whenever Bandcamp Friday comes around, I go to a certain person on Discord and I go, hey, what have I missed this year? What should I 100% just pick up? Spend my money on here so that I give myself a reason to go just give it a proper listen and judge it. And the last time that it happened, I picked up both Prince Daddy and the Hyena, which I knew of, obviously, but also the Crack Cloud, which is fine. So now he suggested this 21-minute horror rap album, which Cost me $20 Australian, so a bit of an investment, but there's only one way to make up those losses, and that's to use it for your podcast. So we're doing Fatboy Sharif's X No Face's new album, and I'm trying to remember exactly what the title was fucking called here. Give me 2 goddamn seconds. That's right, it is called Preaching in Havana.
All right, that's such a left turn, but let's do it.
I'm going to do an album that I just found out existed while we were recording this podcast.
That is the best way to pick them.
And that is One Match Left by Brooks Nielsen. And Brooks Nielsen is a name that might sound familiar because he is the lead singer of the band The Growlers.
Oh.
Oh no.
Is this something we should be concerned about?
I don't know. I think it was the keyboard player that was the creep.
Let's see.
I think it was the keyboard player and the guitarist.
Alright, when you have to search up who was the rapist in a band, you know you're not doing too well there.
Yeah. But this is intriguing to me enough that I'm willing to...
Yes, it seems that Brooks Nielsen took the responsibility of the band, blah, blah, blah. So, I will do more research throughout the week, but so far, okay. Yes.
And it is a double album. It is 20 songs long.
Okay. So, that leaves us with Hey I Love You's Psychokinetic Love Songs, Big Scary's Daisy, Slowly Slowly's Daisy Chain. It was it Fatboy Sharif's X No Face?
Yeah, it's Fatboy Sharif, and then it has no face on it, and it can be X No Face, but it could also just be Fatboy Sharif on Spotify.
Gotcha. Preaching in Havana, correct?
Yeah. Yep.
And then One Match Left by Brooks Nielsen. That's gonna do it for Dissonant Waves then this week.
I just want to say as well, when it comes to the Daisy, this playlist now that I just had, it's recommended me to add Daisy by Waves.
Oh, another Daisy.
Yeah.
Bicycle Bill for two.
Anyway, I've been Riddle, you can catch me on my website, riddleandforkids at github.io. I also have a YouTube channel that's going to be in the description below. And once we're done, I'm going to cook some dinner. That's just a personal taste.
I have been Trix. You can catch me on Twitter at procrastinaut_. It's like procrastinating astronaut, then an underscore at the end of it. I have a bunch of other projects. Buy our merch. Check out our website, dissonantwaves.space, and our YouTube channel.
I'm Dominic. You can catch me online on Twitter at DACICHOCKI. On YouTube as well, Dominic Chikoki. Not really doing a ton on there. Oh, wanted to point out really quickly, Hey I Love You Psychokinetic Love Songs mixed by an Adam Chikoki. I don't know him, but I thought that was very funny.
That it is.
I'm on the Games My Mom Found podcast. Just recorded an episode about Chrono Cross not long ago. Check that out on YouTube or wherever, because, of course, there or wherever podcasts are found. We're just on YouTube. We like the exclusivity. They are just wherever.
They're paying us.
They're paying us for 5 views an episode on average.
Yeah, well, they're paying us so that they can just keep this cursed podcast in for themselves, and so that the world doesn't have to bear the weight of our shitty podcast.
Hell yeah!
And if
only on this podcast can you see me compare drag queens to Tom McDonald.
Fuck.
Dominic is still not happy with it. I stand by the comment because it's just a criticism. I'm putting it out here because I feel like I have to. Tom McDonald is obviously a fucking cunt of a person.
And on that note, dissonantwaves.space, Dissonant Waves on YouTube. If anyone else has anything to say, this is the time. Otherwise,
buy our clock.
Buy our clock, buy our puzzle, buy our whatever is on Redbubble, buy our merch.
Buy my hot takes.
I gotta buy the apron.
Yeah, we all gotta buy at some point. But until then, have a great night, everybody.
Yes, indeedly do.
See ya.
Bye.